Good morning. Welcome back to Tomboy Official. Welcome back to the podcast. On this podcast, we talk about gender and LGBTQ plus topics and sexuality. And you guys are getting the version of me before my coffee. All right, so we've got a new series beginning here. I was debating on it, and then I decided we're gonna go there. So, dating apps. Let's just dive right into this. So, dating app experiences. How are they going? I'll describe the most recent good one. So anybody who's on the Her app, I'm not sure how other apps really do it. I think that's the only app I'm on. I think I've tried Just She or something like that. I don't think I've tried any other ones, honestly. I've just gone online and met people other ways, but not through specific dating apps, I don't think. Other than those two. Oh, I think there was one called BiCupid that I used in the past. That was mostly for kind of, it seemed more so like unicorn hunter type of app, more so. A lot of straight couples, a lot of cis couples. Usually one male, one female couples looking for a third, which, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying, like, that was kind of my experience with that app. But I'm not here to talk about those specific apps at the moment. What I did want to talk about was how the Her app has this feature. My voice feels like it's raspy. I'm not used to talking at this hour. I don't usually just like wake up and start talking. Like, I've been up, but I wasn't like really like awake, and I was like, all right, like I work in like 35 minutes, so let me do something, because I'm just lounging at this point. But yeah, the Her app tends to ask a question. So when you match with somebody, I guess it's trying to fill the kind of, this is my guess, trying to fill the kind of, I don't want to call it like a shortcoming or a barrier, but just kind of maybe like the nature of not the nature of 100% of people, but it's not uncommon to find people who were assigned female at birth and are cis females to maybe not be the first to approach somebody. And this, I believe, is an online trend as well. And this is my opinion, I believe that it has contributed to the app having this kind of like, it says, what does it say, like, let's get this party started. And the app itself automatically posts a question. Just throws a random question out there, and this one was something along the lines of, would you rather receive bad news first followed by good news, or good news first followed by bad news. And so I went on the app to see that somebody had a comment in the chat, and I was like, okay, like, who commented? Because the last person I was talking to, that is not, that we're not going to talk anymore. But this person who commented in the chat, or not like a group chat, but it was like, a message, like DM. And so basically they commented, that they would prefer the good news followed by the bad news, because that could kind of, potentially curb your kind of bad news experience that comes second. And I was like, yeah, that's a good answer. So, I continued that on that route. And we'll see if that has any kind of further, if that goes further. So I first noticed that this person, so let me back up one extra step. So I first noticed, I don't know if it was maybe like a month ago, maybe like about mid-September, maybe early September or so, I got back on this app and I was like, okay, summer's over. Let's do this fall thing. It was not a hot girl summer for me. I was basically just trying to stumble through life and get back, to some kind of grounding. I spent most of the summer doing that, as you guys probably very well noticed. If you've been listening through the whole summer, you probably noticed everything that I was doing was just a lot of transitional things, not gender transitional, but transitional, like emotional and mental, and just changing of actual physical spaces and mindsets and things like that. Interests, diving into some healthier interests, refocusing some of my goals, and just actively working on a lot of stuff that's been kind of on the back burner. I definitely put it on the front burner, and then it's pretty much being well cooked at the moment, I guess. Yeah. So, when fall 2022, I don't know what got into my mind, but I was just like, let's see, like, I'm going to be in the city for a while. My money situations might be changing as my job opportunities are changing shortly here, and I'm getting a little more comfortable with, advocating for myself as far as, asking for raises and talking about, job, pay rates and things like that. Trying to see where I stand, see where my options are with a couple companies that I am either currently working with or previously have a foot in the door with, because I've had a good reputation with them in the past. That kind of thing, as well as studying for a new career change path. Not only for the financial, but just to get into a new setting. It's needed right now. So, I've kind of been pushed into this position because I was like, I just can't stay, put where I'm at with these people I'm living with and all this other stuff. So I definitely made a lot of jumps and moves. And with that, I was like, okay, now that stuff is kind of, at least that phase is kind of settled somewhat, and I know where I'm going, and I'm just doing a routine right now just to do what I need to do. Working on goals of, getting in shape for snowboard season, and, you know, keeping my finances on track, building my credit more, and, a lot more financial planning, a lot more planning towards what steps I'm going to take with the new job experience once it arises. I know kind of the pay rate I'm looking for, the locations I want to work in, the places I want to move to, where I want to live, and how I want to structure my finances. Adding a couple more income streams, and yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with things. And so I was like, well, let me just pop on these dating apps, because I was feeling a little bit social once fall hit. I was like, I'm actually feeling strangely a little bit more social. And so, I started getting on apps, and that app, and I noticed, that there were all these, I don't want to say like all these, I'm not saying it like in this kind of like, in some kind of like a weird way maybe, but like there were a lot of people who had matched with me that I hadn't, looked at any of their profiles or anything, because I hadn't really been on the app for like God only knows how long. And so I think, I'm not going to say the number, but there were enough that I went down and just, liked everybody and read through all the profiles. And I didn't, I sat there and I was like, am I going to say something first? I'm not going to say anything first. And then I think it was that was, let's call that day one. Day two, I open up the app again, and I notice, I've got the same amount of messages, almost as the same amount of people that I had added. So I see all these DMs, and I'm like, this ain't normal. Like, for me, that's not like normal. Like, usually if I'm matching with people, they're not all matching, and then commenting the same within the same 24-hour period. That's not normal for me. And I was like, what is going on? Like, I don't think anything has really changed about me that's like I don't know, like I just never saw it as something that was really going to be like moving forward like that. And so, I took it for what it was, and I was like, all right, well, if these people are going to be commenting, then, let me get up in there and see what these messages are saying. So I clicked the first one, and it's like, an automated message at 7:40 a.m. I'm like, all right, it's an automated message, and I didn't want to answer it. The next one, automated message, 7:40 a.m. I'm like, all right, this is weird. The next one, automated message, 7:40 a.m. It goes all the way to like the last person. And why I said I had just about as many DMs as I had matches is because one person actually did comment first. And they actually commented, and I think I had commented back. I don't know the timeline of this at the moment off the top of my head, if it was the day one, or if this was day two when I was checking messages that I actually had. But I noticed, all the automated messages were that whole, like, let's get this party started, and the message that's like, one of us needs to respond to this message, it's kind of like an open question, like, would you rather have this or that, or, what do you think of this, or what do you think of this other thing? It's like an automated message that the Her app sends, so that both matched parties can start talking to one another. Otherwise, they're likely sometimes not going to ever talk. No one's going to be the first one to talk. And I started not really playing a game, but I was like, well, I'm usually the first one to talk, so I just left it, and I was like, okay, well, if these people are for real, maybe they'll say something. And then it's like, well, a lot of them didn't comment. And then I saw another person recently who commented from, I think, that September thing. So since the last times I had checked on this app, one of the people had commented, and I was like, okay, so that's the person I commented on back to, and I'm like, I don't know how long ago they left that message. It wasn't, I don't know, I have to check, but it wasn't within the first maybe 2 weeks, because I was already talking to that other person that was a no-go. And I'll explain that later, but for this episode, that's kind of what I wanted to explain. And yeah, so I'll see how this series goes. I'm just winging it, guys. You know me, but I feel like if I have a topic, it's a little easier to talk about, because otherwise I kind of just fly off the rails and start just like rambling. I mean, I ramble anyways. But let's see how these short ones go with this topic. If you guys like this series, I'm going to keep adding. One thing I do want to mention though is that, I'm not a braggy person. I don't even like talking about my experiences with dating. Not that I'm like feeling forced to talk about them or anything. Like, I'm comfortable posting about it because I find it, valuable information. But the way I date, or the way I use dating apps, isn't always such a super serious thing. Not that I don't take people's feelings and their personalities and their efforts like as serious. I totally do. But I mean, I have used dating apps for a while now, and what I find is that they're good for meeting people. They're good for getting to meet new people and get the ball rolling with meeting new people. Sustaining those relationships very long term. That can happen too. I've had that happen some. But sometimes, I mostly go in there with an open heart, open mind, and try not to really be looking for some specific thing. Like, I'm there to mingle and see if I meet some cool local people. That's basically why I'm on there. I already know plenty of cool local people, but sometimes I just like to meet different people, and that's kind of how I use these apps. It's just to meet someone different, someone new. If it goes somewhere, it goes somewhere. If it goes further than just friends, then it does. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. If I get ghosted, then that's normal too. If I run into somebody that's just not really my cup of tea, or I'm not theirs, that happens too. And the pandy didn't really help, because people are a little kind of like, I don't know what to do with this or that, or I don't really know, so it's a little of a complex setting and situation to deal with. But I'm not gonna pour like negative vibes on it all. It's overall a pretty good time. So that's been my experience that I wanted to first share, getting back into things. And yeah, like, I really don't know how I feel about the app that's like how they put out that first kind of like, let's get this party started question, because still somebody has to first respond. And then sometimes it's like a question that's like, what? Like, it's random questions. It's not like a question that I would think to ask or whatever. Usually there's a lot of stuff that I want to ask and that I want to know, but it's like, I don't really start there because, I just don't, because I know it's just something that, should wait. It can wait a little bit. But yeah, guys, for now, that's about where I want to start with things. I hope you guys are going to enjoy this series. I know I'm going to enjoy posting about things. I don't really intend to post, at least at the moment as I'm speaking, a lot of experiences, like maybe not like too much detail about, like, I don't know. I don't want it to come across as like every experience I have with somebody online, I need to like share it for the podcast. I do like keeping things to myself too, but it's I'm trying to keep the posts authentic to myself as well. Like, I'm really not I don't know. I just do things the way I do them. And sometimes I switch it up, and that's just how I am with stuff. Like, I'm not really on some kind of ego trip when I'm talking about like dating related stuff. Like, it can be very easy to get in kind of like an ego space of like, oh, somebody might be interested or like whatever, but I'm not, trying to like create some kind of weird dramatic thing. Like, I always think about, when I am mentioning almost anything on here, like, if the person or the people that I'm kind of like even vaguely alluding to were to kind of come across this content, how would they feel about it, and that's kind of where my mind usually is like, okay, I gotta be fair. I can't just be like venting about stuff. Like, but yeah, like, for example, with the people I was living with before, like, I would vent about them because it's like, dude, they know how I feel. And, I was like, this is just the way that I'm handling this, like, I was like, I'm not going to argue with them. I'll just vent on the internet about it. So yeah, that's that. And hopefully you guys will enjoy this series, and thanks for listening.